Well, here I am again. Second episode of How Did I Survive Being a Single Mother to 11 Children. I'm going to go over the next couple of questions. Last episode, I answered 3 questions, but I do need to add something to one of the questions where I said I didn't have any help except for this one person. I didn't have any help, like soul help. As the children got older and they were in high school and middle school, the teachers and the principals, the 2 principals, were amazing. I remember one day I was going to a parent-teachers meeting, and I was hitchhiking because that's normal in certain areas in Israel. You hitchhike. And it just so happened that the principal picked me up, and we were talking. And when I first registered my son to that school, she said, if you ever need anything, if you want anything, don't hesitate, don't be afraid. And so I reminded her of that, and I said, you know, I really do need help. And it was winter. I didn't have any winter blankets for me or the children. And I said, you know, is it any chance that you guys could help me with blankets and things like that? And she said, sure, no problem. The next week, they asked me to come to the school. Either come to the school or my son picked it up. 9 blankets. I had 5 children at home. 9 blankets. 9, and they were new. And there were sweatshirts and sweatsuits and gym shoes. It's like, when I got over the fear of asking for help, it's like the heavens opened up, and the teachers during the course of the year from middle school and high school were phenomenal. Like, even one teacher saved my life because the leaders of the environment where I raised my kids, the cult, let's be truthful, they were trying to ban me to a place up north and separate me from my children. And so I called one of the teachers that I was good friends with at 6 o'clock in the morning, woke her up, and between her and the principal, they made sure it never happened. So I did have physical help, like I said, with teachers and things like this. Physical help in the house as far as duties and chores and all that, no, I taught my kids. And so they could run a house if everybody did what they were supposed to do, did their chores. So we're going to go to question number 4. How did you balance nurturing your children while still finding time for yourself? I didn't. I absolutely did not. Myself was either last on the list or not on any list because, first of all, 11 children. That's 24/7, every day, all day long. And then we always had 2 to 4 other children living with us that either ran away or were kicked out of their homes. And it's like, I didn't have the heart to tell a hungry or cold child no. So I didn't. It wasn't until years later, I would say my youngest is now 25. My oldest is 39. And it wasn't until 2000 and I was 40 years old when I realized that I was allowed to choose for myself. When I realized I could choose what makes me happy. It wasn't until 2020 that I finally realized I could focus on me. I didn't even know what I liked to eat because my days were filled with what everyone else needed. And not everybody needed the same thing at the same time. So it really wasn't until 2018 where I started inquiring, like, what do I like to eat? What do I like to wear? And so during the time that I was raising my children, it never happened. Taking care of myself, I did it like intuitively. Brush your teeth, get dressed, go to sleep, Try not to eat crazy. But literally focusing on self-care as far as a soulful self-care, a loving self-care while I was raising the kids. I don't ever remember that happening. In fact, one day I went to the supermarket and it was a couple years before the teachers helped me with blankets and all that. My children were still young. And I was the only one that didn't have a winter blanket. And I walked around that supermarket 5 times passing this one blanket that I wanted, and it was so pretty. And finally on the 6th round, I snatched it off the shelf, hurried up and ran to the cashier before I would change my mind, because I was not used to buying anything for myself. I even wore hand-me-down shoes from the boys. Like, I couldn't afford it, and it wasn't even a thought. And a friend of mine asked, well, how much was the blanket? In dollars, the blanket was maybe $10. And he just shook his head and he said, poor baby. He said, from now on, I'm giving you a homework assignment. Every time you get money, you do something for yourself. You buy something for yourself, even if it's only $2 or $3. So, number 5, what kept you from giving up even in your hardest seasons? Like I said before, what kept me from giving up? Number 1 and first and foremost were my children. I couldn't abandon my children. And the second thing, even though I thought about it as, I didn't think about it as an option. I thought about it as a, how do I continue on? But ultimately, in the end, it's not in me to give up. A friend of mine, another friend of mine told me, Yana, even shit makes good fertilizer and you can grow nice things. You just have to decide what you want to grow or let it be revealed to you what needs to be grown. So over the years, I implemented that into my everyday thought processes. So anytime it was shit or a shitty situation, the first thing I thought about, how can I make this shit work for me? And what can I grow from this? Question number 6, were there moments when you questioned your faith or your path? Absolutely. But it was deeper than that. You know, I truly believe that we volunteered to come here. If not everyone, some of us. And when I started learning about that and understanding that, my first question was, what the fuck were you thinking? But as far as when I questioned my faith, I questioned the faith of the environment around me ultimately. But because of the type of environment that it was a cult, I only questioned myself as far as I'm not good enough, maybe I'm still evil, maybe I'm this, because the whole concept, the foundation of that environment was, what more can you do? And you're not good enough. And, you know, and that was also part of my upbringing. Oh, sorry. That was also part of my upbringing as far as I never felt good enough. I never felt worthy. So I just repeated history. Not anybody's fault. That was the path that I chose, you know, for when I came here to learn whatever lessons I learned. And so I definitely, through the years, it wasn't even so much that I was questioning my faith or questioning the things around me. I just felt this urgency that if I don't change something, I'm going to die. And not necessarily a physical death, but a spiritual death. So it wasn't so much that I questioned it. It was just this pull and this urge to where, number 1, I can't do this anymore. And number 2, I started paying attention to what crossed my path. So when opportunity showed up, I was like, yeah, okay, let me go this way. And the last question that I'm going to ask today is, what lessons did raising 11 children teach you about love? It definitely taught me about unconditional love. And I think in hindsight, it also taught me about self-love, because with 11 children, I had to create boundaries. for myself. I had to create boundaries as far as respect, self-respect. There were certain things that I was just not going to tolerate. And then the biggest lesson I learned about love was when my twins were 18. My oldest was 20, then a 19-year-old, then my twins, and then the younger ones. And it just so happened that I had been spending more time with one particular twin. And we grew to have a relationship. And up until that point, I always thought that I was supposed to love my children the same. And I realized in my relationship with her that everybody has their own type of love that they need. They have their own love language. And so it helped me to stop feeling guilty about maybe being closer to one child than the other, and feeling guilty because I felt like I wasn't loving one child better than the other. And when I realized that every child needs a different type of love, has a different type of love language, it opened up my mind to the fact that love is different for every person. You have standards, you have boundaries, but actual love, unconditional love. You know, one child, their love language was talking to me and laughing with me. Another child's love language was intellect. Another child's love language was just being affectionate. So anyway, that was the biggest lesson I learned, that love is not the same for everybody. And it opened me up to understand, or at least try to understand, my children better as individuals and not just as a whole unit. But there you have it. The next 3 or 4 questions. See you again. Thank you for listening.